Well, hello everybody. Welcome back to the Porter Says podcast with your host and only host Heath, of course. Sorry if my voice sounds a bit funny at the moment. I just got a bit of a common cold. You know, the winter time here in Australia was bound to catch up with me at some point. So if I do sound a bit odd, that's why. But it's not stopping me from doing this episode, which will consist of me talking about the Wicked for Good trailer, which is the biggest piece of news that I am going to be mentioning. We're talking about 3 movies, but reviewing one, the big one, which is Karate Kid Legends, which will be at the very end. And that's really it. That's all this episode is going to consist of, just because I would like to get some rest on my voice. Don't want to talk too much, don't want to waste too much time. So I do want to thank you for tuning in and stuff like that, and I hope you like, share, and subscribe once this is over, if you enjoy it. We'll get on with... We'll start with the 2 films that I quickly just want to discuss, because these are first time watches. All 3 of them are, obviously, but I would just like to talk about them anyway, because I'm sure most of you have seen maybe one of them. I don't know about the other film. So, Coco from 2017 is a Pixar movie, which I mentioned a few episodes prior, I believe, about the fact there is a sequel to this movie coming out in probably more than a couple of years, like 2028, 2029. I'd mentioned that I was going to watch Coco, and I finally have, and I really enjoyed it. It was a really, really good Pixar movie, very emotional, gets you right in the feels, and that's Pixar's main goal, to always make you cry no matter what movie it is. I feel like they can make a movie about any type of object or something or human, and you're going to end up crying towards the end of it. Like, you'll feel bad for whatever object or person the film is really focusing on. So, but yeah, it's a great film. I think the music's great. I would really recommend that one. And then Don't Tell Mom, The Babysitter's Dead, which is an early 80s, late 80s kind of cult movie, I think, with Christina Applegate in it and Danielle Harris and a few others. I'd never seen this one either. Didn't know what to expect. It was kind of scrolling through HBO Max and was trying to find something to watch, and I thought, why not? Put it on. I'm sure it'll be just whatever. And if I'm honest, it was just okay. I know there is a remake, I think, that came out last year, and I heard kind of negative stuff about that, and a lot of people really do like this original movie. It was fun. It was a nice little 80s throwback. I enjoyed the characters for the most part. I was kind of... I do feel like the whole thing with the babysitter being killed off was... I thought it happened a little bit too quick. I feel like we didn't get to spend enough time with the babysitter. I get it. They kind of, right off the bat, they make you think this is, some nice, sweet old lady, and then she turns out to be a total bitch, but... So you're kind of thinking, maybe you don't want to sympathize with her too much, but I also think it was, within, I think it was, 10, 15 minutes, she's gone like that. I'm like, whoa, we could have spent a little bit more time with that. So... You got Christina Applegate's character, who basically has to look after her siblings while her mother's off in Australia, I think, which is very funny. So she basically has to become the mother of the house, and shenanigans ensue. But it was a fun little 80s flick. I'd say watch it if you've got nothing else to watch. So... Next, we have the Wicked for Good trailer. I think this is like the first big official trailer. I think there might have been a teaser or something that came out not too long ago. I did review Wicked in a previous podcast, so shameless plug, go check that one out. And I did really like that movie quite a bit. I really enjoyed it. I was surprised that I loved it as much as I did, because I don't know much about that whole story, and didn't know much about the stage show at all. So the fact that I'm actually pretty excited for this new one, I think the trailer looked pretty great. I'm intrigued to see how the story concludes, really, and where it kind of, where it leaves us, and what it leads into. I think we're getting some new songs, it looks like. Well, at least, songs that, if you haven't seen the stage play, which I have not, so I don't know how this story's going to go. Unless, the new music they are adding was not in the second half of the stage show, to my knowledge. I'm just taking a wild guess right here. No, this new movie does look like, it looks pretty great. And it's probably going to be the same length as the last one. With a movie like this, you have to be at least close to 3 hours, just because I feel like there's so much they need to tell within this second part of the story. That you can't just rush it. So I don't know what to expect. I'm looking forward to seeing, more interactions between Glinda and the Wicked Witch. I think I'm looking forward to hearing more songs, and because I really liked the musical sequences in the first one. They were very flashy and entertaining to watch in the previous movie. And so this, I think, is scheduled for November of this year. November? Yeah, I think November of this year. I don't know if it's going to be with the same exact date as the first one, because I think the first one was November 21st, 2nd maybe. So I don't know if they're going to go that route, or if it's just going to be any time in November. So there we go. Those are the things I want to get out of the way real quick. And now on to my main thing of this episode, which is what I'm mainly going to be talking about, because I have quite a bit to talk about with this one. Finally, I got to see Karate Kid Legends. It finally came out in Australia. I saw it last Wednesday at an early screening, which was a day before it came out in Australia. And then I let it sit overnight, and then saw it again the next night, which was its official release date, with my dad and a friend of ours. And being able to kind of let it sit a little bit longer after that, and despite I do have a few flaws with this film, which I will get into first, just to get them out of the way. I really loved this movie. Screw all you haters on this one. It was a fun time. Karate Kid Legends was great. I have so many positives to say, so I'll get the negatives. Just kick them to the side. Anyway, so the flaws that I kind of have with this one is that some of the pacing can be a bit rushed. And the soundtrack of the film was a bit questionable. It kind of fit what they were going for, but I kind of just it. A lot of it sounds like it's from TikTok, which is quite funny. And I do feel like there's very mismarketing with this one, but you can blame Sony for that. Sorry. Yeah, you can blame Sony for that one, really. Because the first half of this movie is not in the trailer. I guess that's really all my negatives. I have a ton of positives right here to, go 4. Oh, also the editing in this film at times can be a bit choppy. I feel like some scenes just start and then they end. I'm like, whoa, we could have gotten so much more. Okay. Now, on to the pros of this one. Oh, God, where do I start with this one? This franchise means the world to me. So you can probably say I'm just easy to please with the film like this. But it genuinely doesn't bother me, you know. With this one, I thought Ben Wang, who plays our main lead, Li Feng, was great. He was fantastic in this movie. He's likable. He's very charming. Even if you don't like this movie, you have to walk out saying, yeah, this kid's got a bright future ahead of him, and he really does because he's awesome. He's an established fighter. He already knows kung fu, so he knows how to get out of situations. I really liked Joshua Jackson in this film, who works at a pizza place in New York, and the whole first half of the movie is basically, you know, Lee training him for a big boxing match, and I kind of enjoyed that first half a little bit more than the second half, which was very surprising. I was very surprised by that. I thought Sadie Stanley as Mia was great too, and I liked the chemistry between them. I bought into her and Lee. Wyatt Olaf, kind of who plays Alan, doesn't get a whole lot of screen time, and I did find him a bit funnier on a second watch. I think going into this movie, I had high expectations since it was my most anticipated of this year. So it was kind of good that I was let it sit with me overnight, and then being able to see it again like directly the next night was kind of good because I just went into it like, yeah, all right, I know what I'm expecting, I know what I'm gonna say when I do the podcast, so I just was like, all right, I'm just gonna sit back and enjoy it, and obviously I did. You got Jackie Chan and Ralph Macchio obviously coming together, and that's what the trailer's mainly marketed. They don't have a whole lot of screen time, you know, Ralph Macchio less so, but what screen time they do get is great. I don't really see the complaints about Ralph Macchio being squeezed in. I don't really agree with that, if I'm completely honest. I think people just complain about anything just to complain about it, which I am very guilty of that with a lot of movies and shows and stuff like that, so I'm not being a hypocrite, I'm just, you know, pointing out something that we all do. Jackie Chan gets a bit more screen time in this. I like how they connected Mr. Miyagi and Mr. Han. Like, the opening scene is actually like a scene straight out of Karate Kid Part 2. And then when it gets to the part where Mr. Miyagi is telling Daniel, like, you know, how Mr. Han and him knew each other, or how they kind of, the families are connected, it obviously was like new recording and audio, using AI, I'm guessing, or someone who sounded exactly like Pat Morita. Who knows? You got the villain of the film, so our main antagonist, Connor, who's like, you know, the typical high school bully. The actor does a good job. He's nothing outstanding, but he's exactly what the movie needed him to be. He's perfectly fine for this story. I really like the fight scenes. I think some of the camera and editing, as I said, can be a bit shaky, but I could still see what was going on. And I loved the final fight of the film, like the big tournament between Lee and Connor. It was like on this really cool, you know, rooftop skyline of New York, and it was so funny. Both times I saw this movie, I don't know what this was, but I felt like the wind and like the breeze like coming through when they were both standing up there. It was very strange. Really strange feeling. But cool nonetheless. And And I liked the training montages in all of them, in like the first half and the second half. I love the finishing move that Lee does in the film. I saw that. I'm like, he's going to use that against the bully, isn't he? But they kind of turn it on its head a little bit, in a way, I guess. If you've seen the movie, you kind of know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, then you won't. And I won't spoil it just because I seriously think you need to go see this film. I have a few more positives. I'm pretty sure... Yeah, okay. Yeah, I guess that's really all my positives, which there was a lot, obviously. I only had a couple of cons. And people saying that this is the worst film in the franchise, I don't get that. And people saying, oh, this has no heart, it's soulless. I don't know what movie you guys watched. I guess I'm on an island with this one. Because, there's a lot of people who have really liked it and enjoyed this movie. But then a lot of people haven't. Which is a shame. I want to see more out of this story. I want to see more of Lee Fong. I loved his character, so I want to definitely see more movies with him in it. I will spoil this though, actually, and it wasn't even an end credit scene. It was like, pretty much like, it wasn't even an end credit scene or mid credit scene. They're all working at the pizza shop now, so like Lee and Wyatt Olaf's character and all that stuff. They're all working there. Mr. Han's there, and they said, "Oh, here's a pizza delivery for California," because obviously that's where Daniel lives. And he takes it to him, and he's looking at Daniel's like, I didn't order a pizza. And he goes, oh, there's a note here from Lee Fong, blah, blah, blah. And you walk into the Miyagi dojo, and there is Johnny. Johnny Lawrence with his Coors Banquet in hand. And it was so cool to see him show up. William Zabka, it's cool to see that he's still willing to come back to this character, even if it was only for a little cameo like that. Yeah, man. Overall, I thought Karate Kid Legends was great, and it was probably my favorite Karate Kid sequel since... I think it's the best one since the original, like the first three. So since the third one, it's way better than the next Karate Kid, and it is better than the Jaden Smith film. So, I'd say go and see it. It deserves more money. I don't want it to bomb, because I think there is potential for more movies out of these. Ow. What was that? I think there is potential for, more films out of this. So, cool. I hope you guys enjoyed this latest episode of the Porter Says podcast. Yeah, again, I'm sorry if I did sound a bit funny. Like, it was just like, again, this weather in Australia with it being cold, it was kind of inevitable that it was going to happen. I almost didn't film, but I was like, you know what? I want to get this out to everybody, and I want people to know my thoughts on Karate Kid Legends, because that was like my main driving force to do this. I was like, I really want to talk about this movie because I loved it so much, and I want people to see it because it deserves to make the money that it does. So yeah, and I also did upload like a small little clip to my Patreon because it was about to go, page was about to be taken down because it was like, not being very active. So I uploaded a small behind the scenes kind of thing, which I was thinking about doing, maybe doing like stuff before I film or after I film, showing more of Porter since he never really shows up in these that much anymore. So, but yeah, I guess I will catch you guys next time. Take care.